Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. A real pleasure of mine tonight to introduce you to a young lady who's the daughter of a gentleman I have an unbelievable amount of respect for, John Cutruzzola, Cutrazolo, I apologize, who I've interviewed before and I've learned a lot from. His daughter, or is it daughter-in-law?
Daughter-in-law.
Daughter-in-law, Carolina Cutrazzola, is an incredibly interesting person because she started become a children's author after 20 years of working as a professional healthcare provider. She decided to start this self-publishing journey in 2014. In March 2020, the third book in her picture book series was released. She was featured on Storytime with Fergie and Friends, created by the Duchess of York. And in 2020, read her story, The Adventures of Posh Princess in the Magical Fashion Chamber, and has also been featured on several local television shows and newspaper. Carolina is thrilled to launch her newest story, Cool to Be Kind. It has been featured in BC Parent Magazine and was winner in the Canadian Book Awards. How are you? Welcome to our show. Carolina, how are you?
Thank you. So nice to talk to you this evening.
So tell me, how did you get into dropping 20 years as a healthcare professional and become an author?
It's a crazy story. When I actually graduated from dental hygiene, I told myself that, you know what, I'm going to give this like 20 years and then I want to write kids' books. As a child, I really loved just reading stories, writing stories. It's always been a passion of mine. I had like a huge binder filled with all these children's stories. I don't know where it is now, but so yeah, and just having 3 kids of my own, every time we were driving from here to there, they'd be like, Mommy, tell me a story. So I think it's just in my blood. I love writing stories.
And so did you still keep your job when you started writing the first story? Did you quit right away and know that this was your passion?
No, I kept working. So I published my first story of The Adventures of Posh Princess in 2014. And I actually retired from dental hygiene in 2019.
And now you're a full-time author.
Yeah, full-time author. Yeah.
Fantastic. And so what was this that Fergie was involved in?
Yes. So I had heard that she had a YouTube channel where she did a story time. Sometimes she read the book. Sometimes she would have authors come on and read their own stories. So I actually just reached out to her on Instagram. And within 20 minutes, her assistant got back to me and she says, the Duchess would love if you would read your story. So that's how that happened. So I recorded myself reading my story and it's been great. I had a lot of good.
Sent it to her and she put it on her podcast or something?
On her YouTube channel.
On her YouTube channel. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And this was
really
a story that you had written that had the name Fergie in it as well.
It didn't have the name Fergie, but it was my latest book in my Posh Princess series. It was called The Adventures of Posh Princess at the Magical Fashion Chamber. So that series, it's all about fun and adventure, but each story has a really valuable lesson for kids. So in that story in particular, it was all about being yourself, being true to yourself. It was about a little girl who didn't want to dress like a princess. She was more, sporty. So she got a transformation.
And what, started to dress like a princess?
No, she started to dress in shorts and a baseball cap because she wasn't being true to herself wearing these poofy dresses. So she got a fashion makeover by the queen. And then she was happy. She was finally being true to herself and she didn't have to run around in a poofy dress playing soccer.
Well, you know what, Fergie, I guess the Duchess was sort of like that, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. She's also an author. She writes children's books. So
I did not know that. And so how many books have you written?
So in total, 4 books. And I just released my latest, the Cool to Be Kind, which is completely separate from my other series.
And why this new Cool to Be Kind?
I actually wrote it about probably 5-6 years ago and I tucked it away. My kids were having a little bit of trouble in school with some bullying. So I went to my local bookstore, and there was literally one book on the topic of bullying. I think it was like Berenstain Bears. So then I looked online and there were a few books, but they were all about, standing up to bullies and kind of giving bullies a bad rep. Which, I mean, bullying is never okay. But in my mind, I feel like these children who are bullying, it's a cry for help, I think, right? So we need to show them empathy. We need to give them support. We need to help them get to the root of their problems in order to help them break their cycle of bullying. So I wanted to show that side in my story, to just promote kindness and empathy.
That's a very adult kind of attitude. How do kids show this empathy to a bully?
Well, you know what? They need support from their parents. I think it starts at home. You have to have these conversations with them, like I did with my kids. Whenever my kids would come home and say, oh, you know what, so-and-so did this to me, the first thing I would say was, you know what? You don't know what they're going through. They could be having problems at home, like something is hurting them inside that is making them act like this. So I always say, forgive them, be their friend, show them love, and they can't resist you. When you're nice to someone, it's really hard to be mean to someone when you're constantly showing them kindness, right? It's like that kill them with kindness.
And cool is spelt wrong. Why cool is spelt wrong?
You know what? I just kind of like the alliteration, the cool to be kind, the K and the K. I just thought to be different, right? Why always, go along with the norm? Be different. Different is awesome.
And if people want to get this book, how do they get it? Is it on Amazon or Indigo, or where do you find it?
Yes, it's actually online everywhere that books are sold around the world. So Amazon, Chapters, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, anywhere. And it's also available in a few local stores. There are signed copies. So you can find it at Bachi Gifts in Brampton, Dini & Co. in Georgetown, Shoreline Variety and Gifts in Oakville. So there's several stores where if you want a signed copy, you can get an autographed copy.
Caroline Cutrazolo,
Yes.
The author of Cool to be Kind, a book that you can get, which is a book about, I guess, a little bit anti-bullying, but showing some empathy for the bully and how do you deal with that. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Carolina in just a minute. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saigon 960. We're chatting tonight with Carolina Cutruzzola. She's a mother of three and she's a children's author. And she's just told us about her latest picture book for kids called Cool to be Kind. And it's a book about bullying, but you show empathy for the bully. Tell me, you've also got a Cool to be Kind club. Is that true? I understand.
Yes. So with this book, I wanted to kind of flip the switch because with my research on the topic of bullying, over and over again, I was reading that zero tolerance and punishment towards bullies was really having not much of an effect on decreasing the incidence of childhood bullying. So I thought, why not take a more positive approach? So I created this Cool to be Kind club that I'm hoping will be implemented in schools all around the world in every class in elementary schools. And it's very simple. Each class will have to get a box and name it Box of Kindness. And at the end of every day, both teacher and student will have to just jot down a few acts of kindness that they've done for the day. So by the end of the month, that box should be like exploding with acts of kindness. And that will deserve a celebration. Yep. So the kids can vote on a theme. They can bring in a buck or two and they can have like school safe snacks. And they can, decide on that as well. So I'm hoping it will inspire them to be the kindest version of themselves and to just help them to be more mindful, of their day-to-day activities, to extend kindness whenever they can. And they know that they'll get this nice reward at the end of the month, right? It'll inspire them.
I got to tell you, I think it's fantastic. I interviewed a Buddhist monk. He calls himself the urban Buddhist monk. And he talks about kindfulness, which is the combination of kindness and mindfulness. And that's what you're talking about. And he thinks that it's the secret to success in our world.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hoping it will make a difference.
How did you come across this concept and why it's, better or different than sort of the zero tolerance?
Well, because for the fact that it wasn't making a difference, right? It's kind of just like putting a Band-Aid on a wound, right? Without cleaning it out. And You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just thought it'll just put a positive spin on things because this zero tolerance and punishment, I think it's only fueling the fire for these little kids. Like it's not helping them at all. Right. So maybe if you give them something to look forward to and say, hey, you know what, you do some good things, you're going to get a reward for it. And they're like, oh, okay, like they'll be on board for that.
Could you read something from your book for us?
Sure. What would you like me to read?
Just a page or two.
Yeah. Would you like me to read the summary in the back that kind of wraps
Sure.
up the whole book? Okay. So Charlie, the friendliest boy in school and president of the Cool to Be Kind Club, is eager to become a friend to Pat, the new kid in class. However, he soon realizes that this is not an easy task. Regardless of how many times Charlie tries to win him over with kindness and cookies, Pat continues to bully him. Just as Charlie is ready to give up on the idea of being Pat's friend, he is surprised to discover why Pat was being a bully in the first place. By understanding Pat's point of view, Charlie forgives Pat and is proud to help his new friend break his cycle of bullying. Cool to Be Kind is an uplifting children's picture book that shines a powerful light on bullying. By encouraging a shift from reacting to bullying to proacting with kindness and empathy, this story will inspire a ripple effect, thus helping to decrease the incidence of childhood bullying.
Wonderful. That's I think a fantastic message for everyone, kids and adults, frankly, to hear. So thank you for sharing that. Now, your other books were part of a series, and it was about what? Princesses?
Yes. So these are the first 3 books in my series. I have a few other stories that I would like to publish. It's called The Adventures of Posh Princess. And it's not your typical, princessy book. They love adventures. And each one has a really nice lifelong lesson for the young readers, such as not judging people based on their appearances, facing and conquering your fears, being true to yourself. So it's doing very well. A lot of grandparents are buying them for their children, for their grandchildren. So it's doing really well.
And how'd you come up with the concept of these different lessons?
I think just from being a mom and seeing my kids go through these things, that they have inspired me quite a bit to write these stories. And right. It's something that they enjoy reading. So I'm hoping other kids will also enjoy it.
So be true to yourself, be authentic. And this was a posh princess that didn't want to have to play soccer in a gown and wore shorts and a baseball cap. Do you have a daughter that was a tomboy and felt uncomfortable wearing gowns, or were you a tomboy, or where did that sort of come from?
No, neither one of them were like that, but I think it's just from living and, from things that I've seen growing up. Not everybody was the same. Everyone had their own personalities. And I think that's amazing to just be yourself, not try to be something that you're not. And I hope this inspires the young readers to do that, to be true to themselves.
Do you think that's a problem with kids today?
I do. I think there's a lot of peer pressure, a lot of expectation to just kind of go with the group. I don't know. I encourage free thinkers, and to be true to themselves. And I do think that's an issue these days.
How do you get motivated to either come up with your message or the story?
You know what? I'm not even sure. Sometimes I feel like I dream these things up. Like sometimes, honestly, I wake up in the middle of the night. I have a pad of paper beside my bedside with pencil. Because sometimes I wake up in the night and I have these ideas and I have to jot them down. Otherwise, I won't remember them in the morning. So sometimes I can't even explain how they come to me. It's magical, I guess.
It's magical.
Yes, it's magical. I'm full of magic.
But I think there's a message there as well about how your brain keeps working at night. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're all jumbled up, but it is helpful if you remember them.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Have you always been dreaming at night and trying to remember things?
Not really, I would say. Like a lot of times I do remember my dreams, but it seems like since I started writing, my dreams have been more vivid. And some of the things I put in my books are actually from my dreams. I have a very active imagination, I guess.
I guess so. Do you write first thing in the morning, late at night, all day long? Do you have a system?
It's usually at night after my kids go to bed. That's how it's always been. And it's always been like the old fashioned way with a pencil and a piece of paper. And then I go over it many, many times, like over the course of a month. And then I will put it into the computer.
And why the pencil?
I don't know. I like scratching things out, and I don't know, maybe I'm just an old-fashioned girl.
Yeah, no, I find it interesting.
Old school.
People that work with a pencil, are dedicated to getting it right versus people that write with a pen, think they can get it right the first time. And it's very rare that you can get it right the first time.
Right, for sure.
So the interesting thing here is that, you spent 20 years as a healthcare professional, and you gave it all up to become a children's book author. And you found your passion. And you said you always had an interest in it, but what's sort of what's your story? What's your example to others? What's your lesson? If someone came to you and said, I always dreamt about being an author, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to go for it. If that is their passion, you will find a way to make it work, for things to work out. When you go with your passion, it doesn't feel like you're working because you're enjoying it so much, and you feel like this is your calling. This is what you're meant to be doing. When you're doing something like I really did enjoy my job. I was a dental hygienist for 20 years. My patients, they were like family to me. I loved them. But I felt like I got everything I could out of that job, and I wasn't expressing myself the way that I feel like I was born to express myself, to be creative. And I love that. So yeah, I would just say, follow your passion. You have to live with passion.
Now, I've always been very impressed with your father-in-law, John Cutruzzola, and he, please correct me if I'm wrong, is like a developer, a builder, and he has a passion for painting. And he's ended up doing a fair amount of painting and going on a lot of courses, and he goes to Italy once a year to paint, does he not?
Yes, one of his best friends actually is also an artist. They grew up in their small town of Gagliato together, and now his friend lives in Rome and he has his own art studio. So every year they've been getting together, probably the last, I would say, 15 years almost, he's been going every year to paint with them. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful that they've maintained this friendship and they have this bond through art.
Now, I'm not sure whether he had any influence on you, having the freedom to give up your professional job and to go after your passion. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people feel like they're stuck in this, 9-to-5 job that's got to pay the mortgage and take care of the kids and all this kind of stuff. And here you've got the example of your father-in-law and the example of yourself. What?
I was very lucky to have a husband that was very supportive, because if he wasn't, I don't know if I would have been as brave to do this.
Okay, but finding a supportive husband isn't the only answer.
No, I'm just saying in my instance, yes.
What's the secret? How did you figure out what your passion is? And other than having a supportive husband and the example of a father-in-law, what was it that was the kick in the pants or the inspiration or whatever you want to call it that had you find your passion and go for it?
You know what? I think from a young age, I had this passion. Like I said, my parents, they had 3 stores going when I was growing up. And I would work in the store, but I would spend all my time writing stories. Like I didn't really want anything to do with that. I would be there just to watch over, but I was always writing stories. It's something I think I always knew I wanted to do, and eventually I would do it. So I would just encourage everybody to just follow your passion. It will work out. If you don't have that plan B, you're almost forced to focus on that and make that a success.
So is it helpful having a plan B or not helpful? I've interviewed some musicians that are real estate agents during the day because they have to make some money, and that allows them to be an artist at night. But it's almost as if they didn't have that backup plan, they would be forced to be even more creative and work even harder at their main thing. So is it helpful to have that plan B or not?
I would say scrap the plan B. Put all your heart and soul into your dream and your passion and just make it work, and don't give up. There's always going to be no's. There's always going to be closed doors, but you know what? There's going to be doors that also open, and what is meant for you will be there. So if it's meant to be, I'm a believer it will be, and the universe will conspire to make it happen.
If it's meant to be, it will be. There's a saying in that. Tell us again, if you could, the messages of your 4 books. So one is about bullying and showing empathy for the bully, and kindness and mindfulness, and that will help. The other 3, what are the messages again?
So the very first book in my Posh Princess series, the message was about not judging others based on their appearance, rather just accepting everyone for who they are, regardless of what they look like, just to get to know them and just accept them for who they are. The second book, they go on a camping trip, and one of the princesses is afraid of bugs and nature and all of that. So it's about facing and conquering fears. And she does that in the story through exposure. And she realizes, hey, wait, bugs aren't so bad. And then the third one is about just accepting yourself for who you are and being true to yourself.
Wonderful. Great stories. Could you read a passage from one of the Posh Princess books for us?
Sure.
And these are available similarly at online at Amazon and Indigo and everywhere fine books are sold?
Yes, absolutely. They're online everywhere that books are sold around the world.
The series is called Posh Princess?
Yes. So this is the first book, The Adventures of Posh Princess at the Royal Palace. Then you have The Adventures of Posh Princess at the Mysterious Campsite. And this is the latest one, The Adventures of Posh Princess and the Magical Fashion Chamber.
The Adventures of Posh Princess. What a great name for a series.
Yes, thank you. And I've actually included my children. They are characters in this series. They were thrilled about that.
Read us a passage, please.
Yes, sure. So, calling all princesses, come along with Posh Princess and friends as they take Princess Marlowe, the new girl in school, on a mysterious and magical adventure at Queen Lulu's fashion house. She is not your typical princess, and wearing a dress every day is just not her style. With the help of sweet friends and the magical fashion chamber, she learns to be true to herself and embrace her uniqueness.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this, these 4 great books and good messages and your found passion for being a children's author with us.
Oh, I was so happy to speak with you tonight. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And so it's Carolina Cutruzzola, The Adventures of Posh Princess, and the final book, the most recent book, Cool to Be Kind, cool spelt Kool.
Yes.
Available whenever you can. And do you have a social media website or something like that people can follow if they want to catch your newest, the next book?
Yes. So my new website is cooltobekind.net, and that's cool with the K and the number 2, bekind.net.
Cooltobekind.net. Carolina, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Well, that was an interesting chat with Carolina Cutrazzola, a children's book author. We're going to take a break and come back in just a minute with another interesting story. Stay with us.